Good evening, everyone. How are you tonight? Thank you so much for joining. Another Friday night stream for me, Tony at Quick Tech Solutions, a rarity, 2 weeks in a row. I normally don't do that. Normally like to stream once a month, but I was playing with the new piece of gear today for a little bit, and I wanted to show it on the live stream. On a live stream, I was enjoying it so much, so I figured why not, right? And just take you guys through it, whoever's interested. So yeah, so here we are. I know I always say bring your beverage for the evening. My beverage tonight is, I'm boring tonight. It's just a glass of ice water. Let me know what your poison is for the night, though. I'm curious. All right, so let me say hello to folks in the chat. But before I do so, if you joined me last week, I was talking about some changes that I made to the studio as far as the audio gear was concerned. Real quick recap, if you weren't with me, I had purchased the Rodecaster Pro 2. I sent it back. It just wasn't a good fit for me. And I ended up ordering DBX 266 dual channel compressor and a DBX 231S 2-channel EQ. And it's only not only for my channel, but it's also for the sports podcast that I've been producing the last couple of weeks. So I guess what I want to know is, how does the audio sound to you tonight? Let me know if it's clipping, if it sounds okay, and we'll go from there. In the meantime, let me say hello to some folks in the chat. So we have David Grishko here. David, first in the house as always. Thank you for joining. Jason's Lab is here. Jason, thank you for joining. Appreciate it. Hi, Allie. Thank you for joining. Good to see you here again. And David says, hello from Lebanon. Not home this time around. And yes, when I saw that chat come in, the first question I had for you, David, was, wow, you're in Oregon, Lebanon, what time is it there? But then you followed up with, you're probably thinking Lebanon, frankly, not the country. It's a town in Oregon. Ha. All right, cool. Well, anyway, regardless whether you're in the United States or not, David, thank you for being here. Hey, David, PE for Doers, thanks for joining. Hope you're doing well. I appreciate that, David. Appreciate that very much. 5x5 on the audio and the video. Jason, you need this shirt? Why would you want this shirt? But yeah, I can get you one of them, Jason. Hey, David, usual White Russian. That's cool. Yeah, and usually my choice of beverage for the live stream is usually during the winter months. It's either a glass of Malbec red wine, or it's the summer months or the warmer months. It's usually a cranberry and vodka. But tonight, I don't know why. I had a cranberry and vodka earlier, and I just decided that tonight I was just going to go with straight water. So folks are saying hello to each other. Hey, there's Jeremy. Jeremy says, hey, all, can't stay. I'm out with friends in Illinois. Wanted to say hi and let everyone know I hit 5K before 10-1. Woohoo. Congratulations, Jeremy. Yes, I knew that was a milestone that you were hoping to reach prior to October 1st. So congratulations. Have a couple of drinks with your friends. Celebrate the milestone. Thanks for popping in. David says, sounds very good. Thank you, David. Well, thank you, Jason. These are the summer shirts that I wear actually out on the gigs to location. I have these in gray, and then I also have them in black as well. There you go. Jeremy says, for the record, he's got Corona with lime. Very cool. Very cool. Awesome. All right. So we have 6 of you here so far, 4 likes. Awesome. Keep the comments coming in. So last week I talked about what did we talk about in the last week's stream? I know it was a good stream. I just forget what we talked about. Anyway, I did mention that I had, towards the end of the stream, I did mention that I had another device. It was still in the box last week, and it's the Kiloview E3 dual channel, supposedly 4K encoder. And again, I was playing with it today. I want to take you guys through the unit itself, like looking at the physical features, show you what came in the box, and then take you through the interface, and then show you a couple of examples of how it works in conjunction with the D350 Kiloview decoder that I also have. So, excuse me one second. So that's what I plan to do for this evening. We'll see how it goes. Let me just see. I think I saw Joe pop in here. Here's Joe. Hey, hey, we have company, but we'll join you back when they leave. Cool. All right, man. Well, enjoy your company, Joe. And yeah, thank you for popping in to say hello. All right, so let me switch over to the overhead cam. I just want to show you the device itself. Like I said, we'll go through it like a quick overview and then hop into the user interface. Okay, let me just zoom in a little bit for you. All right, so this is the Kiloview E3 encoder. It's a brand new device from Kiloview. I think they previewed it at the recent show last week, and they were nice enough to send it to me. I want to thank them for sending it to me, and the D3 decoder, D350 decoder as well. So on the top, you just have your basic Kiloview branding. There's no venting on this device. At least the decoder had venting on the sides and on the bottom, but there's no venting on this, so I'm assuming it's fanless. And actually, I noticed it was much quieter today than the decoder. The decoder does ramp up every once in a while. I actually have it off behind the desktop rack to kind of muffle the sound so the microphone doesn't pick it up. So I'm going to say this is a fanless unit. So on the front of the unit, right here, there's an on-off switch, which I thought was pretty cool. Then you have a little display here with your navigation buttons, and then two USB-C ports right on the front. And on the back of the unit, you have an Ethernet port, 1 gig Ethernet port. Now it also supports PoE, so you can power the device with the actual PoE, PoE injector or from a PoE switch. Then it has an HDMI in and an HDMI loop out, an SDI in, an SDI loop out, a regular USB-A on the back, an audio 3.5 line in, and then the power port, which I'll show you the power supply in a second. And the power supply is 12 to 18 volts. So that's actually the unit itself. Pretty lightweight, pretty solidly made as well. In addition to the actual Kiloview, you get inside the box, you get a cold shoe adapter. You can see on the bottom of the unit, there's a 1/4-20. So you can mount it using the cold shoe adapter, I guess, on the top of a camera. You get the power adapter here, but again, it's power. You can power it by PoE, which is what I'm going to do. You get a thank you for your purchase card, and on the back, how to contact support if you have any questions. You do get a warranty card in the box, and the maintenance, a maintenance graph or chart if you want to keep your maintenance records. You get your quick start guide, and then finally, you do get a catalog containing all of the products made by Kiloview. So this is the first time I'm exploring the Kiloview products. I'm very pleased with the decoder, and you'll see a little bit of that tonight as well. So, and from the little bit that I played with this today, I was really, really excited with the user interface and how it performed as well. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to take an Ethernet cable and we're going to power it up. Okay, and then we're going to turn it on. Let me switch back over. Actually, hold on one second. Let's switch to that view there. We'll turn it on, and you should see the display light up eventually. There we go. There's the display. Once it boots up, we should be able to navigate through the display. Kind of neat feature that it has the on-off button. Let's get that off. There we go. Okay, so I know you can't see it. I could barely see it, but it's showing you the HDMI port. Obviously, there's nothing plugged into it right now. The SDI port. And here it's showing you the IP address. And then here, I'm sorry, I can't really see. It's showing the CPU usage and the memory usage, and then back to the HDMI port. So there you go. That's the unit itself, powered up pretty quickly with the actual PoE adapter. So let's go ahead and let me switch to a different view, and let me bring up the actual user interface. And we'll go through the user interface, and then we'll plug in some sources. All right. By the way, if you joined me last week, towards the end of the stream, one of the things I attempted to do was to adopt the Unify UAP Mesh Pro. And for whatever reason, I was unsuccessful. After I got off the stream, I did a little troubleshooting, only to find out that the Ethernet cable that I was using, I'm assuming it must have been defective, because when I went into the Unify controller and I did a little digging, it was showing that the port was being blocked by the what's that? It thought there was a loop in the network, and it was blocking it. I can't think of the term. I know one of you guys out there will tell me. But yeah, so that was the problem. So I swapped out the Ethernet cord, and boom, adopted, no problem. So anyway, that's that. So follow up with that. All right, so let's get logged in. So by default, the username and password out of the box is admin. I've already logged in, and the first thing it asks you to do when you log in is change the password. Now, I've already changed the password. That's why we're not getting prompted here. And you can see it's just got a blue screen because there's obviously no sources connected to it. So I just want to walk you quickly through the user interface, and then we will we'll go back to the chat, see if anybody else popped in, and then we'll get some sources connected. All right, so the first thing it defaults to is the HDMI side of things. Then on the left side here, you have the SDI side of things. And then here you have what's called a mix. So you can encode HDMI, SDI, or you could do a mix of the two, and I'll show you that. By default, the HDMI is enabled, the SDI is enabled, but you can see that the mix of the two is disabled. You can see that right up here, and you can see that the NDI stream protocol is disabled as well. So going across from left to right on the top, if we hit the settings, you could see that the basic settings, you can give the device a name here and choose your language. You have your network settings, user management, you can create an additional users. You have your area and time, and I've already set that to America, New York, Eastern Standard Time. And then we have our system settings here. You have the restore option. You can restore off of a USB drive. And then I did also the firmware update. That's the only thing I did today, was update the time server and the firmware update. So then moving across the top here to the right, you have your voice intercom. So you could have a voice intercom system between the actual encoder and the decoder. However, it requires you to use the Kiloview cloud server for that feature. So, and I'm not sure if there's a fee for that or not, because it's not something that I looked into. Here's an option to reboot the device, and then here's your admin log out and change password. If you look over here to the right side, you have your sources. Again, we have nothing plugged in at the moment, but you could change the parameters just by clicking the cog. It'll encode H.264 and H.265. It has scaling 1920 by 1080, 16 by 9, and then you have your different resolutions here. Frame rate 30, 24, 30, 40, 50, and 60. It has bitrate control. You could do constant bitrate or variable bitrate, which is nice. By default, it's set to variable bitrate. And then the bitrate options here, you have from as low as 1 meg to 6 meg. And then GOP size. I'm not really sure what the GOP size is, so forgive me for that. Then you have your profile, baseline, main profile, and high profile, and then color or grayscale. So there's your encoding, and then you have your audio, and then you can go through the audio settings as well. The audio source, HDMI, SDI, or line in. So pretty neat, neat. Let's look at the bottom here. You'll notice that it says NDI-X streaming. Now this came default right out of the box. So you have different streaming services that you can encode and stream to. So if we were to click on the add button, you could see here, you'll pick your protocol, RTSP. It supports RTSP, RTMP, RTMPS, SRT, HLS, and TS-UDP. And you can set all your parameters for each. And we're going to do that in a bit. But by default, right out of the box, they give you the NDX, and it's already turned on. So what I want to do at this point is attach an HDMI source. So I'm going to attach my main camera, and then what I'll do, you'll lose me for a second, and then what I'll do is I'll attach the main camera into the actual HDMI in, and then I'll loop it out back into the ATEM. So give me 1 second. Okay, I'm back, and now it's going through the actual encoder, and you can see up on the screen there's slight delay, not much. Okay, so now that we have that going, let me bring up the decoder. Bear with me. Similar login screen. Again, the default password for the decoder is admin, but I've already been into this several times. Okay, so we don't see anything there yet in the preview window. But if we go over, well, actually, what I want to do is we have an HDMI source coming in. Let me get an SDI source coming in for a second. Let me grab something from my HyperDeck. All right, give me 1 second. All right, let me switch now over to SDI. There we go. Okay, so now we have a source coming in from the HyperDeck. So if I hit play on the HyperDeck now, you can see it's playing the video from the HyperDeck. Okay, so we have our HDMI source, which is my main cam. We have the SDI source, which is the hyperdeck source coming in from the hyperdeck. If you noticed on both the SDI and the HDMI, both have the streaming service NDI-HX set up. So now that we have sources coming into the encoder, let's jump over to the decoder. And if we just hit discover, it automatically sees the encoder on the network. It sees the NDI source automatically. And then if I click here, it'll add both streams, the HDMI version and the SDI version. But if you want, you could just add one or the other. Hold on a second. Let me get rid of that. You could add just one or the other like that, but we're going to add both. And we're going to close it. And now, if you didn't see my video on the actual decoder, the sources appear down here. Now, this decoder can have an unlimited amount of source streams coming in, but it can preview up to 16 in this preview window here. So let's bring this one up into the window. This should be the HDMI, I'm thinking. Yep, that's the HDMI source. And then if I switch the view to 2 up, I'll bring in the SDI source. There, and you can see the SDI source there. So it's pretty cool. It does work. Now, if I wanted to output any of these to a monitor or into my ATEM, I would just simply drag it over to the preview window. But that we'll talk about maybe in another video. So that's as simple as it was to bring in the SDI sources. So let's get rid of those now. And let's do something similar. Let's come over here and let's bring in an SRT. Let's bring them in as SRT. And this way I could show you how to create them as SRT streams on the encoder and how to ingest them on the decoder. But before we do that, let me jump over back to the comments, see who else has joined us and whatever else you guys are chatting about. Hey, DJ Ware, good evening. Thanks for dropping in. Okay, folks are just saying hi to DJ Ware. DJ Ware is saying hi back. Okay, cool. Let's get back to the demonstration. All right, so what we're going to do now to add a streaming service for the HDMI, we're going to come in here, we're going to say add. We're going to come here, we're going to pick SRT. I'm going to leave it, I'm going to set it to caller. I'm going to leave the listener port to 1025. That's fine. I'm not going to do any encryption. And I'll just do a simple SRT stream ID of 1234567 for the purpose of this demonstration. We'll call this Tony Cam. And here it's asking for the public IP, but I'm streaming internally on the network. So I'm just going to give it the internal IP address of the decoder. And we'll leave the latency to 125. That's fine. We're not going to do anything with the AES key for now because we didn't do any encryption mode. We'll say okay. And then we're going to do, excuse me, sorry about that. We'll start the stream. And then we'll do the same thing for the SDI source. We'll come down to the streaming service. We'll add it. We'll do another SRT. Do it caller. Again, 1234567 For this purpose, we'll call this hyperdeck. And again, the public IP, which is really the internal IP in this case. And we're going to change the port to 1026. And we're going to say OK. And we're going to enable it. So now we have both our HDMI source enabled as an SRT stream and the SDI source enabled as an SRT stream. So now let's jump over to the decoder and let's add those SRT, let's ingest those SRT streams into the decoder. So before we hit discover to discover the NDI streams automatically, this time we have to manually add the SRT streams to ingest them. So we're going to click on the add button and I'll call this Tony Cam. We're going to come over for the source type and click SRT. We'll leave it set to listener. The port is 1025. The latency is fine. Let's go to advanced settings, show the advanced settings, and we're just going to enter the stream ID 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we'll say OK. And then we're going to do the same thing again. Now it added it here, but we're not seeing it yet because it hasn't been brought up into the preview area just yet. So let's hit the add button one more time, and we'll call this hyperdeck. Source type is SRT. Listener, this is 1026, the port. And then we got to put in, we'll just display the stream ID. And we will say OK. And now, if I did everything correctly, hopefully, the SRT feeds will come in from the encoder. So let me bring in the Tony Cam first. It turns orange, it should turn blue, and then when it turns green, we should see the image. And there we go. And let me bring in the hyperdeck now. And again, it's orange here. When it turns blue, and then it should turn green, we should see the image. And there you go. Okay, so it's pretty cool. It's working. And then you see this little eyeball here. You can turn on and off the stats. And the stats basically show you things like the URL, the bit rate, the video codec being used, the resolution, the SRT mode, the live status, etc., 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 things like that. Skip packets, lost packets. So if you need to do some troubleshooting or troubleshoot your SRT feed, you can bring up these statistics, and at least it gives you something to go on. All right, so now that we have that set, let's jump back over to the encoder. Let me just take a quick look. We'll jump back to the comments in a second. So now we have both of the feeds going over to the decoder. So now let's mix those and see what happens. So let me come down here to mix. And I believe when I hit mix, it's going to disable the individual HDMI feed and the individual SDI feed, if I'm not mistaken, because once I enable the mix, it's going to disable the two individuals. So let's see. The operation will turn HDMI SDI encoding mode to mix. Yep. All right. So now if you could see what it did, it created a picture-in-picture. It took the Tony Cam down here in the lower right-hand corner, and the actual hyperdeck movie here. And if we go here, you can see that now the HDMI stream is disabled and the SDI stream is disabled. I don't believe it's sending to, yeah, it's lost because it's not sending an SRT feed. But for now, let's just turn on the NDI and let's go over to the D350. We'll cancel these two guys out. And then we'll just do a discover, an NDI discover. And there's the encoder. We'll add it. And then we'll just drop it in. Let me switch the view here back to single. We'll drop it in. And we should see the picture-in-picture here. So if I hit play on the hyperdeck, you could see it's playing the commercial for Forever 24 Fit when you could see me down in the right-hand corner talking to you. So it's pretty versatile. It's pretty cool. Okay, let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of this. Let's go back to the encoder. Let's turn this off. What did I want to show you next? Let's go back to HDMI. Let's enable the HDMI. It has the SRT feed here. Actually, we don't need to go into the decoder to show you the next thing I want to show you, but let me come over to the comments real quick and see what's going on. Okay. So let's see. Ali writes, is the new GrandStream router as powerful as the Synology router in security? Actually, the new GrandStream router, I have the 7001, and my next video, I think I did 3 videos on setting up a home network or small business network with VLANs and things like that. My next video, or the next video that I do in that series, is going to be on the firewall rules. I have to be honest with you. I like the actual Synology router as far as the security is concerned and the parental safe features. I think the Synology, in my opinion, the Synology router packs a better punch. I think the way the GrandStream router firewall rules are, again, my opinion, leaves a little bit to be desired, but I think as future firmware releases come out, I'm sure GrandStream is going to keep evolving that. So anyway, I hope that answers your question, Ali. All right, so back to the E3. So what else can we do here? So if I click here, it's just showing you the safe zone, the safe areas. Here it's showing you the crossbars. Here you can see we could flip the image upside down if we had to. And here it allows you to put overlays on screen display. So you can do things like, excuse me one second. You could do things like add text, add a clock. So if I hit add material, we could leave this as a chat. We could say something here like, enter your custom text here. You can position it left top, text size normal, bold. Let's do bold. Text outside border, text size auto medium. Let's just make it large, auto large. White is fine, blah, blah, blah. And then I don't know if you can see it up here. My microphone is kind of in the way. There we go. It says enter your custom text here. So you can do text overlays. You can do a date, a clock. Let's do date. Let's do a clock. Let's do it in the right top. And just say okay and see what it brings us. There's a little tiny clock here. You can see counting up. You could also do, actually, you could do a lower third if you have a graphic with transparency. And let's do that. Let's bring in an image. And I'll say, let's put it on the bottom center. And then we're going to say image management, because I don't have any images uploaded here. So we're going to add images. And I know on my desktop, I have a lower third. So we'll just call it lower third. And say upload. And I'm just going to go out to my desktop and find lower third. There we go. This is a lower third that I use in the Schwartz Talking Sports podcast. By the way, if you missed Wednesday's show, if you're into golf, we had Lance Seymour on the show talking about the Ryder Cup that's currently going on now. Europe is whipping the United States team big time, and Lance, so far, his predictions have been spot on. So if you're into golf, you're into sports, you want to check it out, I'll drop a link to the actual podcast channel on YouTube in the chat if you're interested. All right, so there's the lower third. So let's go back now and let's say, I don't know why it brought me all the way back out, but add, let's go to image. We'll say bottom center, image select, and now you can see the image that I uploaded is there. And there you go. There you have your lower third. If you're, I guess you were running a show right from the encoder one camera, I guess you can have your base of images inside here, inside the image management area. And I guess you can basically choose from your, upload all your images here and then choose, get all these set up ahead of time and then just choose the different images right from here. Kind of not the most fluent way to do things, but I just thought it was a cool option. You can turn on and off each of the elements just by unchecking and checking them. So pretty cool. Just something that I wanted to share. So far, that's about the extent that I've played with it. Tomorrow, let me cut out of here. Tomorrow, Joe and I are going to do a test in the afternoon. Pretty cool test, actually, with Epiphan Connect and Zoom and the decoder. So with Epiphan Connect, you can take a Zoom call, have Epiphan Connect join the Zoom call, and it works with Teams as well. We're going to test it with Zoom. And then what happens is Epiphan Connect then takes all the participants in the Zoom call and will extract the audio and video and convert it to an SRT stream. And then you can send those SRT streams either to Epiphan's Unify, UNIFY cloud switching platform, or you can direct those SRT feeds to a hardware switcher like an A10 Mini or an A10 Television Studio. So we're going to test that. We're going to I could bring in, like I said, on that decoder. If I go back to it for 1 second, let me just go here. On this decoder, down at the bottom here, I could have as many stream sources as I want. I can bring up to 16 of them up here in the actual preview window, and then I can output to the ATEM. I have one output for HDMI, a second output for HDMI. Actually, I have two outputs, but I have one output here, which can be HDMI. The second output could be the second HDMI or SDI. You could pick and choose what you want to show on your outputs. So I could probably ingest all of the streams down here, bring them all into preview, set two of them to the outputs. So I could probably output to two inputs on the ATEM and bring in, using the one decoder, the multiple streams into, like, say, a live show. So we're going to test all that out tomorrow and see how that goes. So anyway, let me see what the comments are. This might be a quick stream, but it's something that I was playing with today, and I was like, oh wow, this is really cool. I got to share this. So, all right. So David's opinion is encoders should be just encoders and nothing more. I would leave stuff like this up to the mix. Yep, exactly, David. I can't disagree with you on that. And I think you're referring to, like, the on-screen display stuff in the lower thirds. Yes, I agree. That's why I said it was kind of like not the most fluent way to do things, but it is an option. So, yeah, I can't argue with you on that. I agree 100%. All right. So, let's see. Not sure what else. That's pretty much all I had planned for tonight. I'm not going to just drag this on for the sake of babbling, because that's not what I do. So if you guys don't have any other questions, or any other comments, wait a minute or two, and then I guess we'll start bringing this to a close. All right. All right, guys. Well, I do appreciate you taking the time to join me here this evening. That was an overview of the Kiloview E3 encoder, brand new. You saw a little bit of the D350 decoder. Again, tomorrow we're going to do that test, and I'm curious. I want to see the back end of Epiphan Connect anyway and see what all the hype is. Everybody says it's wonderful, and you get rid of all your Zoom farms and pin farms and things like that. So we're going to check it out and see how that goes. So thank you guys all for being here. David says thank you for sharing. Thank you for joining. I appreciate it. And again, if that's all we have for this evening, thank you again for coming out. Have a great, safe weekend, everyone. Until next time, have a good night.